Hi everyone, my name is William and I am a wAIHA warrior. I'm here with you today to talk about my story. Starting with a little bit about myself, I've lived in the suburbs of Toronto, Canada my entire life. It's home for me and usually it's pretty quiet up here. I'm an engineer by trade, but what really gets me excited is thinking about the future. I'm a big sci-fi geek, a fan of shows like The Expanse. I just love the curiosity of how technology will evolve in the future and what the world might look like for the next generation. But back in December of 2022, my own future suddenly felt just as uncertain. It was during the pandemic, so like everyone else, I was feeling pretty isolated. I just finished dealing with the side effects of my second COVID vaccine, and I started a new high stress job. And I really felt like this was the only thing I needed to deal with. But suddenly, just came in very strong. I became incredibly short of breath. I remember thinking, I haven't caught COVID, so why can't I breathe? Or was it that I caught COVID and I just only had one of the few symptoms? I also had no appetite, and I just felt this deep, heavy weakness that I really couldn't shake off of me, no matter how hard I tried. Because of the pandemic protocols, I really wasn't seeing many people, and everyone didn't want to see everyone else, as you can imagine. But one day I went out to pick up some takeout. I was just standing there waiting for my food when the waiter looked me straight in the eye and said, "Hey, your eyes look a bit yellow. You might want to go check that out." Um, it was definitely a strange feeling when a stranger notices your body is failing before you've admitted it to yourself. I realized then that even my urine was a bit dark, which was very unnatural. I immediately reached out to my family doctor. The moment he looked at me, he saw the jaundice and he said, "I don't even want to run tests because if I do, it's going to take many weeks to process." So instead, he told me, "Hey, you should go straight to the emergency room at our nearest hospital." So I did that, and I immediately rushed over. Didn't have time to prepare or pack anything. I was hungry, thirsty, everything, because I didn't expect this from my doctor. But there I was in the ER, and I waited for quite a bit until they saw me. But when they did, it was a blur of blood work, and they took multiple um, samples. I think they at the time saw the first results and wanted to reconfirm some things. And when the results did officially come back, um, the numbers and the people talking to me were very hard to process. I remember one of the nurses, they kept asking me if I was on any Chinese medication or if I took any new supplements or drugs. Um, the worst feeling is to see health professionals kind of really not knowing what's going on with the results they're seeing. So they told me my hemoglobin was in the 40s. For context, a healthy person is usually around 130 or 140. Yeah, I was basically running on a third of the oxygen I needed to just to function. They were surprised that I was even able to stand or or wasn't like grasping for air, and or I like they were surprised I was even conscious at that point. Um, I didn't know anything about autoimmune diseases. I was confused and honestly just exhausted. Um, I was seen by a hematologist. His name is Dr. Henry Solo, who ran the tests and did the scans to rule out the the elephants in the room, like cancer and other bad things. But finally, he said very confidently, um, and gave it a name. After I was Coombs positive, I had all the markers of what I now know is warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia. So essentially, my immune system had started attacking my own red blood cells. Um, Dr. Solo immediately started me on prednisone, and that was the start of a very, very long and very difficult road. The the uninformed me back then thought, "Hey, I'll be better in a few weeks. This is just some strange disease that can be cured," or but I was totally wrong. Even though my doctor said, "Hey, we're gonna have a long relationship ahead of us," I simply couldn't accept that at the time. So skipping forward, the next year and a half was a grind. Prednisone is a tough drug. Um, I dealt with uncontrolled weight gain. I couldn't sleep. It really wore down my physical and emotional health. We even tried rituximab, but unfortunately, it had no effect on me. I did eventually hit a stable level and tried to taper off prednisone. It worked for half a year, but then eventually I caught COVID for real. And after recovering from COVID, it seems like I had relapsed. So I called in to Dr. Solo and we ran the same blood work, and lo and behold, it was my hemoglobin has dropped significantly, down to 80 when I was stable around 120 to 130 at the time. So because of how prednisone was so disastrous on my life and well-being, he said, let's try a drug called Cellcept or mycophenolate. And I think that worked best for me. I was on it for about a year, and that eventually got me into a state what my doctor referred to as compensated hemolysis. So this, if I understand it in layman's terms, this is where my body was finally producing enough blood to keep up with what was being destroyed. But still, I was tired all the time. My energy levels were low. Just my body was trying to make sure it was producing enough blood cells and to have enough hemoglobin. And then eventually, I could finally stop the majority of the drugs I was on, because this compensated hemolysis pretty much stuck with me for, it's been almost 2 years now. Before all of this, I love to travel. I love to sightsee, experience different cultures. And my work often brought me to fun and exciting new places. But during those months on medication, that part of me just felt like it was on hold. Actually, my entire life felt like it was on hold. I was just, it felt like I was just uh, a combination of flesh, bones, and muscle, and I was just on life support, trying to hold on. And I remember I just wanted to feel like myself again. What actually helped me cope during all of this wasn't the medication. Actually, the medication probably made things worse at times. It was taking control of information. I started doing my own research, looking at medical journals, watching videos. Eventually, I joined the patient advisory board at wAIHA Warriors, and attending my first annual meeting was a massive turning point for me. Hearing from other people who were living through this, who knew what it was like to be a wAIHA patient or to be stuck on prednisone, it was incredibly empowering. You realize you aren't alone in this. You're part of a community. I also had a great doctor who takes the time to explain what was happening in my body. That understanding gave me the motivation to work on my own recovery. And what I decided was, and I truly believe, that exercise and nutrition were the keys to my turnaround. Reaching a state where I don't need immunosuppressants today took a lot of work. Even when I was tired, I pushed for some level of movement, some level of exercise, some level of eating the best I can. I had to build a strong body to handle this. Today, I'm in a much better place. I've been able to do things I love again, including going on a recent trip to China, getting married, and planning a honeymoon trip to Japan this year. I am in the gym, always doing high intensity and fulfilling training. And while my hemoglobin still fluctuates, my daily life has improved significantly. I just feel like myself again before all of this. But the regular blood work and the occasional doctor visits serve as a reminder and wake-up call that I am not. And I need to try harder than anyone else to work on my body, my mental well-being, and just treating myself right. It was difficult to come to terms that this disease is lifelong, but it's definitely not stopping me from doing the things I love with the people that I love and cherish. To anyone newly diagnosed, you are not alone. Take your time, listen to your body, and don't be afraid to keep pushing until you find the treatment that works for you. Most importantly, work on strengthening your body, even in small ways. Healing takes time. It's a long road, but it definitely is possible. Thank you all for listening to my story. I hope to speak with everyone at some point.